So if you're making whiteboard animations, you probably already know that camera control is, well, it's everything. It's a real make or break skill. Get it wrong, and your whole message just gets lost in the chaos. But if you get it right, you can turn a messy animation into something that looks super polished and professional. Let's dig into how to do that.
Let me just ask you this. Have you ever finished an animation, you hit that play button, and you just feel a little bit seasick? Is the final video just this dizzying mess of zooming and panning that leaves your audience totally confused?
Yeah, if that sounds familiar, you've stumbled upon a super common problem. The default setting in a lot of animation software is to zoom in and out on every single little thing as it gets drawn. But all that movement, it's really jarring. It makes your audience have to work way too hard just to follow along. They can get dizzy, and honestly, the worst part is they completely lose focus on what you're trying to say.
But hey, don't worry, there is a really simple, kind of elegant solution to this. And it all just comes down to changing how you think about it. You've got to stop seeing your animation as one giant canvas and start thinking more like a comic book artist.
The whole idea is right here. Think of a comic book. Each panel holds just one main idea. That's it. That's the secret. You know how a comic book panel frames just one single moment in the story? Well, each scene in your animation should do the exact same thing. It should hold one single focused idea.
And when you do this, the results are, well, they speak for themselves. Look at the left side, the one crowded scene approach. You get chaotic camera movement, it's confusing, and it just overwhelms the whole canvas. But over on the right, with multiple clear scenes, you get a smooth, stable camera. The story flows, and every idea has its own room to breathe. The difference is just night and day.
Okay, so that's the why you should do this. Now let's get into the how. I'm going to break down the exact technique you need to create these nice, clean, separate scenes.
It's a simple 4-step process. First, you just move or pan over to a totally empty spot on your canvas. Second, you add all your images and text for this new idea. Third, and this part is absolutely crucial, you select all the objects for that scene. You can usually do this by holding down the Control key and just clicking on each one. And finally, you click that Set Camera to Current Position button. And that's it! You've just locked the view, creating a nice, stable panel for your story.
And once you start using this simple technique, the change is, it's really dramatic. Let's take a look at the before and after, because that's where you see the real power of locking in your scenes.
So, before, with the default auto camera, you get that jarring effect. The camera is just jerking around, zooming in on every little thing. The viewer's eyes are being pulled all over the screen, they lose the thread of the story, and the whole thing just feels unprofessional and, yeah, pretty dizzying.
But after you take control and set the camera for each scene, everything changes. You get these really smooth transitions between your ideas. The camera stays perfectly still while each part of the scene is drawn, which creates a clear, professional flow. Your message becomes so much easier to follow, and your audience can actually relax and absorb what you're showing them.
All right, so let's boil all of this down to the one single thing that you absolutely have to remember. Here it is, your big pro tip. One scene equals one idea. It really is that simple. When you create a specific scene for each main point and then lock your camera on it, you take back control. You basically become the director of your own little movie, guiding your audience's attention exactly where you want it to go.
So with this technique, you're not just throwing a bunch of objects onto a canvas anymore. You're actually crafting a story, panel by panel. You're in charge. So really, the only question left is, what story is your next scene going to tell?